All right, so at this point you should have something in your notebook that looks similar to this page. We have 11.3 logic statements, and then you have this little chart where it says conditional, converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So a logic statement is really just a two-part statement where we have what is called a hypothesis. And if you notice here in our chart, the conditional says if P, then Q, converse is if Q, then P. So what P and Q are their parts of statements where P is equal to the hypothesis. So this is really just the first part of our statement, and where Q is equal to the conclusion. So in the actual statement, we're not going to have P and Q. We're going to have some statement where P is the hypothesis and Q is a conclusion. I'm going to go ahead and number these. Conditional is going to be 1, converse is going to be 2, inverse is going to be 3, and contrapositive is going to be 4. So our goal is to be able to take a statement and write the conditional, the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive statement. So if our statement were do your homework and get your homework to get good grades. Okay, so if this is my statement, then I'm going to have to locate here P, which is my hypothesis, and Q, my conclusion. So the first thing I'm going to do is say what P and Q would be. So here we have our first part of our statement, do your homework. So that is going to be our P here, do your homework. Whereas Q is going to be, our conclusion is going to be get good grades. So we're just really breaking this up into two parts. Do your homework, get good grades. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to state the conditional probability. So a conditional probability is a logic statement that says if P happens, then it's going to make Q happen. If P happens, then Q happens. It follows logically. So if we were to write do your homework to get good grades as a conditional statement or as an if-then statement, it would say if you do your homework, then you'll get good grades. So the hypothesis is that you do your homework. The conclusion is you'll get good grades. So that logically follows after doing your homework, right? If you do your homework, then you'll get good grades. So that would just be our first statement, our conditional statement. Now we can also write the converse of this statement. The converse, notice here it says if Q, then P. So all that's happened here is P and Q have changed places in the statement. So if we wanted to write the converse of this statement here, if you do your homework, then you'll get good grades, we're just simply switching our P statement and our Q statement. So let's go ahead and erase, because I don't have much room on my screen here. So I'm going to erase the original statement so that I can write the converse here. So the converse, again, is going to be number 2. So I'm just going to switch P and Q. So instead of if you do your homework, then you'll get good grades, if you get good grades, then you do your homework. If you get good grades, then you do your homework. Now, converse, sometimes when we change a statement around, it won't necessarily be true. So generally, it's a good idea to check the truthfulness of your statement after you've changed it. But today we're really just practicing writing these different things. So a conditional just starts with the first statement and puts if in front of it. If you do your homework, then you get good grades. The converse switches the order of those two statements. So if you get good grades, then you do your homework. So what the inverse does is it keeps P and Q in the same order as the conditional, but it negates both P and Q. So it's basically the opposite of P. If the opposite of P happens, then the opposite of Q happens. So let's write the inverse of these, of this statement. So the inverse here, number 3, would be if not P, then not Q. So since P is do your homework, it's going to be if I don't do my homework, or if you don't do your homework. Okay, then what happens? Then you don't get good grades. Okay, so that was called the inverse. We negate both of our statements. If not P, then not Q. And notice that the contrapositive, the one that we're going to do next, if not Q, then not P. So they're still both negated, but P and Q have switched places. So the contrapositive both switches P and Q places in the statement, and then it also negates both P and Q. So let's write down the contrapositive of this statement. Okay, so number 4, the contrapositive. Let's see, pen, come on, okay. So number 4, the contrapositive would be if not Q, then not P. So if I don't get good grades, then I don't do my homework. It looks like I switched from U to I in here somewhere, but try to keep it the same. So if I don't get good grades, then I don't do my homework. That would be the contrapositive. So whatever your statement is originally, if this happens, then this happens. The converse just simply switches P and Q. So whatever was the if statement before is now the then statement. Whatever was the then statement is now the if statement. The inverse is a little bit differently. It negates both P and Q. So it's the opposite. If the opposite of P happens, then the opposite of Q will happen. And the contrapositive does both. It switches the if-then statement around and then also negates both of them. So go ahead and try some of these examples and go ahead and work on worksheet 11.3 and also 11.2 if you haven't finished it. That one will be due tomorrow. And then tomorrow I can answer questions and we can go over more examples as needed. So thank you.